Hello and welcome to the Band in a Box 2012 New Features and New RealTracks video. In this video we'll check out some of the more than 50 great new features, including VST Synth and audio effects support for every individual track, direct input guitars, audio loops, adding Midi Tracks, simple RealTracks options, easy selection of drum grooves, and many more. We'll also check out some of the fantastic new RealTracks in RealTracks sets 137 through 154. There are 101 new RealTracks styles added, including this breezy jazz funk rhythm section and soloist. As is the case with everything you hear in this video, what you're hearing right now was created simply by entering chords like E flat major 7, C minor 7, B flat 7, picking the style and the tempo, and pressing play. All of this was done in less than a minute, and Band in a Box then created what you're hearing in seconds based on the chords. This includes all of the instruments you're hearing: bass, drums, electric piano, electric guitars, and even the sax solo. Here we have the Dixieland rhythm section and collection of soloists. The rhythm section set features drums, tuba, banjo, acoustic guitar, and piano, and the soloist set includes clarinet, trumpet, trombone, and acoustic guitar. The horns each have two separate soloists, the full-on soloists we're listening to here, as well as background soloists, which are great for using in a grand multi-soloist extravaganza. We have a new set of classic country soloists by Nashville legend Brent Mason. Here's one of our styles with piano great John Jarvis. This phenomenal player is included on 3 different sets, playing rock, blues, and country. By popular demand, we've included new classic Bluegrass Waltz styles. there are new Texas blues rock styles with rhythm section instruments and soloists by Brent Mason and British blues prodigy Saul Philcox. And there are many more great styles in RealTracks sets 137 through 154. But let's have a look at some of the exciting new features in Band in a Box 2012. One of the most anticipated new features is that Band in a Box 2012 can use VST Audio Plugins on each separate track. This means you can use different plugins on different tracks, allowing you more freedom than you've ever had in the past. If we go into the VST Plugins dialog, we can see that for each instrument, there are 4 slots where you can load 4 different VST plugins. We're going to check out the VST Plugins feature in conjunction with our new direct input guitars. I've loaded a demo from RealTracks set 151, Praise and Worship Promise. I'll play a little bit for you. And I'll solo the 2 electric guitars. Now these are the sounds that were originally set by the artists who recorded them. But if you want to create your own tone, we can go into the RealTracks picker and instead choose to use the direct input versions of these guitars, and then apply effects to those. And for each of those tracks, I'll select DI guitars. Now when I press play, it's instead picking the direct input files. And you can hear that it's now a clean sound. This is a recording of the direct signal from the guitars. If I go back into the RealTracks picker for just a moment, you can see that there is now a column there that displays a Y for any instruments that have direct input options. It's not just electric guitars, but it's also electric basses and pedal steel. And now for the exciting part. I'll open the VST Plugins dialog and I'll load AmpliTube, which is included with Band in a Box 2012, onto the first guitar track. I'll pick the Modern Pop Rhythm preset. And we can now hear that we've got a brand new sound. I'll turn the drums back on so I can tap the rhythm, which is important for the delay effect. And this is the fun part, you can start playing with the sound, changing pedals. Changing amp type or settings. Cabinet settings. Or effects racks. And you can pick completely different effects for each different track. So for the second guitar on the strings track, I'll pick AmpliTube again, but I'll pick a different preset, gain and chorus. And as I pointed out already, you can use more than one different plugin on each track. So I'll add a 5-band EQ to boost a little bit of the high mid. I'll show you another example of a song where the style automatically loads the DI version of a guitar and also automatically loads an AmpliTube preset. This is the Band in a Box 2012 tutorial folder. This folder has many songs that demonstrate the different new features in Band in a Box 2012, so we'll be returning to here a lot in this video. And here is a song with a DI guitar soloist which loads a specific AmpliTube preset. We can see that it has automatically picked the pop rock lead preset. If I bypass, here's the DI guitar. Right now I have the double finger-picking guitar RealTracks demo playing. This features new acoustic guitar finger-picking styles from Nashville legend Brent Mason. These new finger-picking styles are intended to be used in conjunction with our previously released finger-picking styles to give a full, blended sound. We'll use this demo to show another very handy new feature, easy selection of drum grooves. In the past, for any given song, you generally had only two options for the drums, one for A substyles and one for B. So for this song, we have a drum variation that plays side stick at A and open hi-hat with snare at B. If we wanted different grooves, we could pick a different variation, but we'd still be stuck with only two options. Well, now there is an easy way to select more than just the two within a song, making it much easier to really shape your song exactly the way you want it. I can now right-click on any bar number, and I see multiple possibilities. So here I'll leave the side stick and hi-hat variation at bar 1, but then I'll select snare and hi-hat at bar 9, and you can see that it gives even more information about the style as well, including what exactly the kick is doing. Then I'll pick snare and open hat at bar 17. And finally a ride pattern at bar 25. Now let's give that a listen. And it's now playing snare and closed hi-hat. And now it's switched to an open hat. And finally ride. So we've given our song a much more sophisticated dynamic shape. And in the Real Drums Picker itself, the variations now have much easier to read names, and there are added full descriptions below so you know exactly what you're going to get. And if you click the description, you can read it in full. Now let's learn a bit about the new Loops feature. Loops are audio files, WAV, WMA, M4A, MP4, or MP3, that reside in the Loops folder of the RealTracks folder. There are loops included with Band in a Box in Loops Set 1, and you can add your own files to this folder. Loops Set 1 includes 14 nature sound effects which work very well with our new age MIDI styles, and it also includes 7 percussion loops which work very well with lots of RealTracks styles in many different genres. We'll return to the tutorial folder and check out the nature sounds with this Thunder demo. With all the files in the tutorial folder, there's a memo explaining a little bit about the feature. So the memo here explains the different ways loops can be used. In this case, it's a loop that has been embedded into a style. So when I press play, we hear the MIDI instruments with the Rain and Thunder loop, which has been put on the guitar track. Also in the tutorial folder is an example of one of the percussion loops. This demo features the elect rock styles with a tambourine loop that has been put on the piano track. Now we'll try adding our own loop to a song. RealTracks Set 147 features new organ and piano styles by jazz great Mike LeDunn. And I'm going to load the demo for the Bossa New York Piano Trio. Now I'll press the Loops button, pick an unused track, guitar, and select a loop. I'll filter by percussion, and I'd like to add the guirdo. Because this loop is included with Band in a Box, all of the information about the loop is already entered. The tempo is 124 beats per minute, and the loop is 16 beats long. To add your own loops, you would simply put your audio file into CBB RealTracks Loops, press refresh, and the loop would appear in this area. The first time you use your loop, you would enter the info about the loop here, but after you do it once, that information would be saved for next time. I'll press OK and play, and we now have added percussion to this bossa. Now, just for the fun of it, let's add a sound effect. Before, I clicked on the Loops button, but you can also just right-click on the track you want to add the loop to. And so, for our song, how about birds chirping? Incidentally, you can also use pitched loops. Just enter the root note, and you can have it transposed to match the key of the song, the chord root, or if it's a slash chord, the slash root, which would be good if it were a bass note. But for this one, we won't have it transpose or stretching anyway, and I'll press play again. And we now have birds twittering away. Another file in the tutorial folder is an example of the new Simple style feature. Simpler RealTracks play a less busy, less embellished arrangement. For example, this demo has simple versions of both the bass and the piano. Let's look at the notation for the bass. During the A section, the bass plays almost exclusively half notes with only occasional quarter notes. And at B, plays only quarter notes with very little extra embellishment. I'm going to use the new Band button, which we'll look at more closely in a little bit, to load the same style as this, but without the simple variations. You can see that the bass is now including much more complex rhythms and much more frequent embellishment. The piano too plays more complex harmonies and rhythms than it did with the simple versions. Now, there are several ways simple styles could be used. The J-Simple STY style that was loaded before specifically loads a trio of simple bass and simple piano. But you can also set it in the song settings with force song to simple arrangement. Or you can set it in the RealTracks picker for individual instruments. For example, if I thought the piano was fine, but I wanted simple bass, I could put a check here and now we have only the simple bass. I'll go back into the RealTracks picker and show you that any style that has a simple variation available will display an S in this column. I showed you the Band button briefly. This is a button that gives you a menu showing the most common reel styles, also known as reel combos. These are the most frequently used rhythm section styles in the three main genres: jazz, rock pop, and country. And there's a handy feature to load the demo for that style. A tempo range is displayed, and provided you have all of the necessary RealTracks and tempo swapping is enabled, you can set your tempo anywhere within that range, and Band-in-a-Box will automatically pick the correct RealTracks for the tempo. So, for example, I'll pick Bluegrass, and I'll load the song demo, and when I play, it's picked the 130 beats per minute Bluegrass styles. But you'll see it's listed a tempo range of 85 to 175 beats per minute. So if I change the tempo to 105 and press play, it's instead picked the 100 beats per minute RealTracks. Another thing you can do with the Band button is to add your own choices. I'll select Customize, and it gives a message that you can create new entries by creating a text file called realcombos_user_top.txt, which you would put in your BB folder, or realcombos_user_bottom.txt to put your own styles at the bottom. I've made realcombos_user_top.txt already, so it will open that. I'll type in my faves for a header and ZZ Jazz $, MIDI Jazz Style, which is the description. And now we can see that my addition has been added to the list. Right now we're listening to a bossa solo accompaniment guitar style from RealTracks set 148. These are understated but very elegant styles for backing up a singer or soloist and require no other rhythm section instrument. This set comes with 4 different styles: bossa at 2 tempos and jazz waltzes at 2 tempos. We're going to use this file to demo a few more new features. First of all, the Midi Tracks feature. You can now add MIDI tracks to your song from any MIDI style as easily as adding RealTracks. You can either right-click on the individual track or press the Midi Tracks button. For example, let's say you want to add MIDI strings to the strings track. I'll select the strings track and I'll pick 49 strings as my instrument. And now I'll choose a style with this instrument. So all of these styles have a strings instrument in them. I'm going to use the new simple filter feature here to type bossa to filter the list further to show only styles with bossa somewhere in the name or memo. And I'll pick bossa light. And we can see now that that strings part will be played in our song. Another way to use these MIDI tracks is to select from our presets of very useful MIDI tracks. I'll add a vibes part to the piano track, so I'll click the presets and I'll filter by bossa vibes. And now I'll play it, and we'll see what it sounds like. Now, this is with a single VST Synth playing all the MIDI. But with Band in a Box 2012, you can now have different VST synths playing different parts. I'll stop and go into the VST Synth dialog. Now, our default synth is the Coyote wavetable, so that's what's currently playing all the MIDI. But if I want the vibes on the piano track to use a different synth, I'll click on Piano, and I can choose a plugin. I'll pick the Aria player, through which I can use Garrett Jazz and Big Band. Incidentally, to add new plugins that you've installed, simply select Add VST Plugin and navigate to the location of the plugin's DLL. I've already installed AmpliTube, but if I hadn't, I'd select it here. And here were the DLLs I selected when I installed Garrett Jazz and Big Band. The piano track uses channel 3, so I'll change channel 3 here to one of the vibes options. Now, the first slot here, as we've seen, can load a synthesizer. The other 3 can take audio effects. For example, I can add a 5-band EQ here, the same way I did when demonstrating AmpliTube. So now let's have a listen to it. The strings are still being played by the default Coyote wavetable, but the vibes now have the beautiful tone from Garrett and Jazz and Big Band. I'm now back in the tutorial folder, and I'm going to open a multi-style to demonstrate some new feature in style files, such as substyle names stored in STYs. This multi-style is an all RealTracks bossa, and it allows you to pick either rhythm section only or any bossa soloist. This style has been around for a while, but it has been updated with the new band-in-a-box feature that allows you to put substyle names in a style. So with this new feature, I can right-click on any bar, and it'll tell me the name of the soloist as well as other info about the substyle, and will allow you to set whatever soloist you like for that bar. And of course, here we can see the drum grooves too that we could also choose among. So I'll show you this in action with a brand new song. I'll press New, though the multi-style remains. I'll type in some chords. C, J, which is a shortcut for C major 7, D minor 7, G7, D minor 7, G7 again, E minor 7, A7, back to D minor 7, G7, CJ again for C major 7, A minor 7, D7, D minor 7, G7, and I'll end with C major 7. Now I'll right-click on bar 1 and I'll set a flute solo, and I'll right-click on bar 9 and set a bass solo. And I'll press play. And we see we have easily made a little 30-second tune with some different soloists. Something quick and easy like this could work as a radio jingle. These substyle names are also useful in other multi-styles, in that they can show you options for intros, verses, choruses, or bridges. I'll now open the Style Maker to show you some under-the-hood stuff with these features. If I press Miscellaneous, we can see that this is the multi-styles area, and here is where you can type in the substyle info. Just make a new line for every substyle, and they'll appear that way when you right-click on a bar. I'll press the More button to view the area where RealTracks are set in styles. Another thing you can now save in styles are custom panning, reverb, and tone. These settings would get loaded whenever you loaded that style into a song. Earlier in the video, we used styles that had direct input, AmpliTube presets, Midi tracks, and loops saved as part of the style, and this is where those things are added to the styles. Here's an example of a style with custom reverb settings. We drench the sax in reverb here, which is much more than is usually loaded for this style, but it's a sound that might sometimes be exactly what you want. This is a great example to demonstrate the woodshed feature. When practicing or woodshedding a tune, it is useful for the tempo to speed up every time the section loops or the song restarts from the beginning. So say I heard a lick I liked here and I wanted to practice it. First of all, I would want to loop it and slow it down so I could really learn it. I'll slow it right down to 75 beats per minute. Now, as I'm practicing, I'll want to gradually try to speed up. Now I'll go to Prefs, Arrange, and I'll set it to increase by 5 beats per minute. And I'll have it go up by 30 beats per minute before returning back down and repeating. Now, in a real practice situation, I would want the increase to go slower than this, but I wanted to demonstrate it going all the way up and then back down again. We have a good sample in the tutorial folder as well that you can look at, one of our 101 solo intros files. We saw earlier the new easy-to-use simple filter, and we're now going to show you some of the enhancements to the advanced filter. There are now options to include or exclude styles with soloists, match tempo exactly. If this isn't selected, it will allow styles that are close, but if this is picked, it will only allow styles where the ideal tempo matches exactly. RealTracks artists now list the instrument names and genres of the players. Individual genres are listed here, and time signatures have been added. Right now we'll pick styles with soloists, and we'll pick Paul Franklin Country Pedal Steel. And we'll check out the demo for this Western swing style. We can see that a yellow hint message has come up to warn us that we're still in woodshedding mode. Some hint messages like this are now interactive, so for example, we can click on it to turn off woodshedding mode. There are also updated versions of the BB Remote app for iPhone, iPad, and Android, which have been updated with new features including double click to play from a particular bar, easier changing of screens, file save, a red-green connected status button, and automatic connection. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and we hope you enjoy the great new features in Band-in-a-Box 2012 and the wonderful new styles in RealTracks sets 137 through 154.